Morning. I never really know when I press go live, when it's going to go live. These are like the kind of like stages of software. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know what gets broadcast. I don't know what snippet of my life you get to see before I actually intend for anybody to see anything. Anyway, thanks for joining. This is week 6 that I've been doing this. Yeah, so if it's the first time you're joining, or just a little reminder as always that this is me doing my practice. A lot of it's based on Feldenkrais, and I throw in various different things there, and then I take it to different places. I kind of mash up different Feldenkrais lessons and play on it a little bit, and yeah, take it where I want to according to what I feel like my body needs. So I just invite you to do the same, as in adapt it according to what you need. So see how you're feeling moment by moment, and respond to that. So at the same time as being a physical training, we're mobilising, strengthening, differentiating parts, integrating the whole system, doing a little bit of muscular work, doing a bit of releasing, all of this different things. As well as all of that, it's a training in just making time and space for ourselves and our bodies and our well-being, and learning to listen to our amazing systems, nervous systems. So I'm going to switch to talking into the first person, and yeah, follow along with whatever you fancy, adapt it as you need, rest when you want. I'm going to start in a standing scan. So I'm just stepping my feet into the floor a few times because I automatically place my feet correctly, as if I'm going to start a dance class or a Pilates lesson or something. So I need to just allow my feet to walk into the floor without me thinking how I'm doing it. So just stepping foot to foot without really thinking about it too much. In different ways, finding a bit of floor that I like, and then pausing. Where do I want to be? Oh, I want to be here. Sort of facing into the corner a bit. And then I just stand and close my eyes. And I notice what I can sense. It's amazing what the weather does to me. I feel that it's a much more muted day after last week's intense sunshine that I have in this space in the morning. I feel today is kind of muted and a little quieter. Taking my attention into my body, noticing what I can sense. This morning I have a bit of a repetitive strain going on. So I notice a bit of slight throbbing pain and discomfort, unfortunately, in my right wrist and hand. So I just go beyond that, keep paying attention. Notice a little tension in my jaw and neck. I realise I can actually release that a little bit just by noticing. Feel the muscles around my face and eyes and jowls getting jowlier. I don't think jowlier is a word, but I like it. I don't really aspire to be jowlier, but there you go. My face is relaxing, so I think it's inevitable. Functional jowliness. I notice my chin drops a little bit as I start to relax. And I can feel I'm just scanning down from my head now to my neck, my shoulders, noticing the alignment of my shoulders, comparing left and right so that I can just sense Not only how do my shoulders relate to my ribs and the side of my body, my neck, but how do they compare side to side? Down my arms, seeing how my arms are hanging, the direction, how bent or straight each elbow is, how close or far from my body do my arms lie. All the time I'm noticing this little postural sway. I'm not trying to stand absolutely frozen still, because then I would be forcing stillness when actually we need these little adjustments in relation to gravity, the postural sway. So I'm noticing postural sway, letting that happen. I'm not restricting any movement. With my eyes closed, it's a little bit greater as my body just adapts to balancing. So I can sense my weight shifting around on my feet. I go back up to my arms and my shoulders, scanning down the length of my spine. I can feel the top of my thoracic spine feels a little short for me. I can feel I'm slightly bunched up around the back of the low neck into the shoulders. Maybe like first sort of first 2-3 thoracic vertebrae feeling a bit bunched up in the back. As I notice these things, it affects my posture. Like I'm letting these things be. I'm not trying to correct, I'm just allowing them, so that actually I can start to be comfier, even if it's not what we would call anatomically optimal. I really notice when I hang my head back, which is really interesting. That's the effect of the shortening in the back of my thoracic spine. Ew, interesting. So I'm just coming down to my ribs, my middle ribs, lower ribs, noticing my volume. I feel I'm a little shorter on one side, a little more bunched up on my right hand side, and a little more open and on my left hand side. Going down to my belly, my lower back. Observing how does my belly transform into my pelvis, how does my lower back transform into my pelvis. This is a really kind of magical area, I think, because we try to separate these areas of the body, but actually they are so much connected. We separate just by giving language to the belly versus the pelvis, for example, but the belly comes right down to the pubic bone. His belly is kind of embedded and supported in the pelvis. And the same with the back. What is the back and what is the pelvis? The sacrum is part of the spine, and the sacrum is buried in the pelvis at the back, and then the tailbone comes out of the sacrum at the back. So the length of the spine is embedded deep into the pelvis and part of the pelvis. So what is the back and what is the pelvis? Just getting a sense of that area of the center of myself, my center of gravity, noticing how my center of gravity shifts over my feet. Noticing now from my pelvis and my center of gravity, where does my weight fall? So I'm really sensing my weight fall a little bit more easily onto one side. The more I notice my wonkiness, the more I'm just allowing myself to go into it. Being the wonky, quirky, non-anatomically optimal human being that I inevitably am. It's really obvious to me this morning. Probably because I have had 2 days off doing this practice, and that's all it takes to re-wonkify me quite profoundly. I like just side bending over to my right. Ugh, I just want to kind of hang out here. Anyway, so then I'm just taking my attention down my legs, down my thighs, getting a sense of the length of each thigh, the mass of each thigh, how bent or straight is each knee, what's the quality of the musculature in the lower leg, the calf. Can I sense the direction and volume of the shin bone on each side? Getting a sense of my structure, the architecture of myself. My foundations, going through my ankle to my feet. And I'm just going to shift my centre of gravity around a little bit without really thinking too much about how I do it, but just want to just shift my centre of gravity, so my kind of low belly, low back, pelvis area. And see how that affects my feet. And I just let the rest of my body do what it wants, so I'm not particularly trying to do anything. For me, that means I'm quite soft in the ribs, but with this definite bias to lean on one side, curve and curl onto one side. And I just try to sense, where do I go naturally? Where do I want to go naturally? For me, there's this real clear tendency to twist a little to my right, pull my right hip back and lean a little towards my right foot, as if I'm kind of looking down towards the ground on my right hand side, as if I'm trying to shift my pelvis back to get out of the way and look at my outer edge of my right foot. So just feel myself kind of falling into that. And I'm going to just slightly, that's a shortening of the muscles on that side as compared to the other, so I'm just going to slightly go more into that thing that I already do. I'm tightening up and going further there and releasing. So I feel from my fingers and my toes, I'm just going to spiral myself. This is so specific to me, so just as an aside, anybody watching, see if you can just find whatever it is that you're doing more, that you're doing already. Everybody will have their weight a little bit more on one side than the other. Everybody will have one side of the waist probably a little shorter or longer than the other. We all have these differences just because of how we use our body in day-to-day life, how we've grown up, possibly weaving into the body any traumatic experiences, whatever it is, it's all written in the body. So just listening to whatever it is for you. And for me, that means I'm going to just involve more things that don't really need to be involved, but in the same sort of pattern of action. I just want to feel like I'm going with the thing that's already happening. So I'm slightly twisting and tensing my feet, slightly twisting and tensing my hands, slightly hunching one shoulder, slightly pulling myself deeper into this twist with some muscular effort. I'm really feeling that I'm efforting more in the direction that I'm already going. I'm doing more of what my natural tendency is, and then I'm going to undo that and lengthen and reach away from it slowly and softly. I'm going to do it again, so quite a few times I'm going to softly go into what I'm already doing. Might include the jaw, might include the eyes, might include the back, might include the belly. How much of ourselves can we bring into this self-awareness? How much of ourselves can we bring into this pattern of action, this sense of self, self-image, going into what my tendency already is, and then reaching out and away from it in whatever the opposite direction is. So this is a very instinctive thing. Instinctive but responsive to what I can sense in the body. I think this thing for me is all being exacerbated on the right side because of this repetitive strain I'm experiencing in my right wrist, which is from spending so much time on my telephone. Trying to limit my time on social media and working from my phone. I'm trying to do more on my computer because my phone is destroying me. I'm going up the other way. One last time. I'm going to just tense everything I feel is already tense, shorten everything I feel is already short, go further into it, deeper into it. From my little finger to my muscles around the hips, to my little toes, to my jaw and my eye. And then I'm using the floor to help me grow out and away from that in a direction that is softly, softly countering that. There's no one way, there are is an infinitude a word? An infinite number of ways, anyway. Opening up. And then I'm just going to come back to standing and close my eyes and see how I feel. Well, that's good. My weight has shifted between the 2 feet a little bit more. I'm now, interestingly, actually preferencing the other side. I've kind of not just evened up, but gone over to the other side now. So I'm completely off my right leg, and my weight wants to sit over my left leg now. And I'm gonna just take a little walk around and let my brain, nervous system rest a little bit. Happy Monday, everyone. And then I'm going to come back to standing. I'm going to start to roll down through my spine. Just notice first of all how I'm standing. Taking again my attention into the body a little bit. I'm not worried about the alignment of my feet, I'm just standing in a way that's comfortable. Where do I want to be? Where do I want to be? And I'm going to start to roll down. I'm making sure that I've got a soft bend in my knees. But I'm not going to overwork. I'm not doing a sort of Pilates version where I'm really intentionally pulling my belly in and up and trying to evenly go down one vertebra at a time, that fantasy of one vertebra at a time. Instead, I'm just dropping the crown of my head forwards and letting the crown of my head very slowly pull me down so that I can feel, where do I feel I need that lengthening in the back? And where do I feel my spine opens up in the back of the body easily? And where do I feel it's a little more blocked, a little less willing? And just by going slowly, I make sure that my back is comfortable. And I get down to the place where I feel that I just start to bend in the hip joints and my back isn't rounding anymore. And I start to come back already. So I'm pushing my feet into the floor. I am sensing dropping the tailbone down at the back like a kind of kangaroo tail, so that that can just pull my tailbone down and allow me to restack the spine. But again, I'm just going so slowly so that I can really pay attention to how possible is it for me to open up in the back of the body. How can I do that comfortably? And eventually my chest opens up again and I come all the way up. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to look up and let my jaw release and try and trace down my spine. To start with, I'm thinking about my pubic bone staying where it is in space. I could put my hands there if I want, just to make sure that my pubic bone isn't moving. So that I'm going from the top of my spine, opening up, softly looking up. My neck goes into extension. I feel I can gently open up my collarbones by drawing my shoulders back, just very softly. And then I'm trying to just open up the chest. I'm going slowly enough and softly enough that I can feel, where does it want to open, where doesn't it want to open. Keep going back. Lifting the chest, sinking in the back of the body. I go all the way until I feel the pubic bone also being implicated, because I've opened up the whole front of the body, the length of the spine, until it hits the pubic bone, and then I come back. I'm going to do it the same again, forwards, just pausing, standing first. Forwards, just noticing what happens as I drop my crown of the head.
So again, this is like noticing, and in the noticing, maybe allowing possibility for something else. Keeping a little bend in my knees, dropping my tailbone down the back. There is work going on in my belly, but it's just a result of me going carefully down, trying to sink my chest as much as I can whilst lengthening the back of the body as much as I can. And then when I feel I can't round my back anymore, I'm just going to start going into my hips. I start to come up again, dropping the tailbone. I play with how bent or straight my knees are. Bending more in order to help me feel how to round into the parts of my back that don't want to round. Kind of don't want to come up, to be honest, I just want to stay down here. There we go, rolling all the way up, finding my verticality. And then I'm going to go once more back. Keeping my pubic bone still until the whole spine is implicated and I can feel the pubic bone being pulled, and then I will come back. I'm going to do it without talking. And I just stand and notice how I feel. And I'm going to take a little walk. Been standing for some while and I've been really using my feet in contact with the ground, so I feel my feet and hands quite kind of awake, quite innervated, quite... Oh, what's it called when the blood goes to an area? I can't think of the word. Anyway, I feel like a lot of attention and blood has gone to my hands and feet. And I walk, just to walk it off a little. I feel I'm a little more even in my walking, side to side, comparing left and right. And I'm going to come down. I'm going to lie on my back for a moment, just to check in. Monday morning, how am I feeling? I want to have my feet standing to start with, just because that's a little more comfy for me while I begin to settle into the ground. I can feel I'm a little nervy today, so I'm just being gentle with myself. And then I just lengthen both legs. Let's see what it feels like to lie with my legs long. Close my eyes for a moment and scan. Letting whatever I can release, and noticing what it's not possible to release. Because I'm very familiar with this experience, I can really sense already that what I was doing in standing has affected how I'm now lying in contact with the ground. And I'm going to flex my feet. I've got a slight bend in my knees, so they're not locked out straight. My heels are on the ground and my toes are pointed up to the ceiling, and my feet are slightly flexed, so my toes are slightly pulling back towards the front of my body, towards my chin. So then I'm going to just point and flex very slightly the toes, and I feel that that drags my skeleton up and down a little inside my flesh, so I can feel my skin is stuck to the ground, stuck to my clothes, stuck to my mat. I'm going to rest a second and come back to it. So my skin is stuck to the mat, but when I point and flex my feet, it pushes and pulls the length of my legs, pushing and pulling my pelvis. I can speed it up and it gets easier for me. So I've got this push and pull going from the feet flexing and pointing all the way up the leg to push and pull the pelvis, which pushes and pulls the whole length of the spine, and as a result my head nods up and down a little bit. I'm actually going to let the voice go as well. I can feel my belly, the contents of my belly going up and down. And there's this nice feeling of the back of my ribs moving against the ground inside my own skin. And that's releasing all of the tissue in the back of my ribs. And I'm going to just lift my arms up off the floor so my arms aren't stopping movement. And then I just stop with the legs. And I'm just going to come into a little wriggle, a little stretch, and I'm finding where can I stick the back of my skin to the ground and push and pull myself within, or wriggle within my own skin. So I'm kind of massaging myself against the ground, but not by sliding my skin against the ground, but by sliding my own bones inside my own flesh. If I wriggle, I can get different parts of me in contact with the ground, and different parts of me stick to the ground, and then I can also wiggle side to side, and wriggle through the belly and the pelvis, lift my head, lift my feet. How can I just kind of squidge my skin around and squidge my ribs around on the ground? Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle through my torso in different ways. And then I can just relax again, lengthen my legs and see how I'm making contact with the floor. Gently spreading out. I'm going to roll over onto my belly. So as my shoulder circles, my upper arm is going a little forwards and backwards towards the shoulder and then towards the elbow. And my elbow is fractionally bending and lengthening, so that my lower arm is slightly moving forwards and backwards. And I can also again use the hand on the floor to support the action of the shoulder. And all of this, taking all of that into my attention, means I'm expanding the awareness, becoming more aware of more of myself participating in the action. And then I can feel my chest getting involved. And I can make the movement a little bit bigger and juicier just because I can feel the chest moving and it feels good. And then I'm going to take a rest. I'm going to roll to lie my back just to see how my working on one side has affected the contact I now make with the ground lying on my back. A little rest and a scan. Roll my head side to side, that's nice and smooth. I just want to test it, see how it feels. Just always observing the quality, not just what am I able to do with no effort, what am I able to do just with pleasure and comfort, but also what's the quality of the thing. Feel my jaw is softer, the muscles around my eyes and face have opened up a little. I leave the rolling of the head, comparing the left and right sides of my body. I take my toes to face to the ceiling and my legs a little bent again, and I just revisit, this time a much smaller, a much softer, little pointing and flexing of the toes. That just helps me sense where could I release in the body at the same time. I go bigger and slower. Smaller and faster. And then I relax again. And roll over onto my belly. Second side. For me, that means looking to the left. Having my right arm down by my side behind me. And my left hand on the floor. Somewhere near or underneath my left shoulder, like a little lizard. Maybe out to the side somewhere a little. But with the palm on the floor. And I want to just start by going through the same exploration, or rather a similar exploration to what I did on the other side. So I'm feeling, where do I move my elbow? What does that do to my wrist and hand? This is one of those things that, well, everything just varies so much person to person. I know one handstand artist who can hardly stand her hand and get the heel of the hand on the floor. That's quite remarkable for a handstand artist. So she just adapts to that. She has to work around it. And she's incredible. So just means you just have to learn what you need to adapt to. So I'm just feeling, where do I put my hand and what does that do to the wrist and how comfortable is it? And then I'm playing a bit more with the fingers, gripping the fingers in, pushing more one finger into the floor, pushing more another finger into the floor. I can already feel, because I'm practicing this kind of global focus, oh my god, I can also smell coffee. That's so unfair. I can smell amazing coffee coming in. Anyway, I can already notice, because I'm practicing, not just thinking about the thing I'm doing, as in the movement of my hand and fingers, not just thinking about what my intention is, but thinking about what else happens therefore. So I can feel, even though I'm only really thinking about exploring how do my fingers press into, or grip, or lift, or come away from the floor, I can already feel that my fingers are connected to my breastbone and my ribs. And I want to start pushing my hand into the floor already. This isn't exactly what I did on the other side. I've kind of skipped the circle. I'll come back to that. But I'm just feeling on this side that I've already got this nice easy connection from a pressing down of my fingers and palm into the ground to a movement of the ribs, breastbone, spine. Pushing my hand into the ground and feeling it rolls my chest. If it rolls my chest, then that's already a movement of the whole shoulder girdle, the breastbone, the spine and the rib cage, the belly and the back. I'm just going to take my arm down and rest it. I'm actually going to turn my head the other way to rest. And I'm going to come back to my first side with my head turned to my right and my right hand on the floor again, as if for a press up or like a little lizard. And I want to just get the feeling that I found on the other side, the pressing the hand into the floor, pressing fingers into the floor, sensing my fingers lengthening away from my palm. And then what does that do to my shoulder, to my elbow? How can I move my whole body through my hand pressing into the ground to roll my chest, roll my shoulder and then roll my chest, and then as soon as my shoulder and then my chest rolls, then my collarbones are implicated, my breastbone is implicated, my thoracic spine and ribs are implicated, And then how can I go into a movement that passes down through the spine into the rest of my body, rolling my body. And I'll take a rest again. And I'm going to turn my head back to my second side, wriggling around on the floor a bit. So I've got my right arm down by my side and my left arm up in front of my face again. I'm coming back to my left side. I just want to give a little chance to these circles on the left side that I didn't do my second side. I'll close my eyes. I'm going to start a minute circle. So slow. And small, so unambitious, because it's already juddering and stuttering, and how can I just smooth it slowly, slowly, polish and smooth this little circle of my shoulder. It's funny, there's like one bit of the circle where I just feel like I want to stay there. My shoulder likes it so much. And my breathing can soften. And as I start to... as I continue, I just start to expand my awareness out again. From the shoulder to feel that it moves this piston system of the upper arm to the elbow. There's a tiny little beetle on the floor. From the upper arm to the elbow, from the elbow to the wrist, the hand on the floor is participating. And make the circle a little bit bigger so that I can feel more the hand and the wrist participating. I'm just doing more of what they're already doing. And the more I involve the hand and the wrist, the fingers on the floor, the easier it is for my circle to become a little bigger and a little juicier. And it's soft. My circles are going backwards. I'm going to keep them going backwards, and I feel that there's a point where my shoulder is going back and my hand presses down into the floor, where it's easier for me to roll my ribs. And I keep doing it, so big slow circle every time my hand pushes into the floor and my shoulder goes up and then back and then down. I feel that the piston system of the arm rolls the shoulder girdle, rolls the ribs, rolls the head a little, drags the head on the ground slightly. And I'm starting to make it bigger so that the movement of the chest rolls the ribs. I actually end up looking down towards my left knee, underneath my left elbow, my pelvis is rolling. All of this just from the strength of my left arm. So I'm actually doing quite a lot of work in my left arm, because even though I'm not doing, it doesn't look like much of a press up, I'm using the whole left, just the left hand to drag the weight of my whole body. So I'm going to take a little rest. I turn my head the other way to rest. I'm going to come back to the other side. For me it's the second side. No, it's not, it's the first side. Right hand on the floor. Just wriggling a bit on the floor. I want to straighten out my blanket. So lying again with my left arm down by my side, I'm looking to my right with my right hand standing on the ground as if for a press up. I come back to circling my right shoulder back and down, and I feel that that connects to my hands and my fingers, and I exaggerate what the hands and fingers are doing, pushing into the ground and lengthening away from the palm, like my fingers are trying to spread out and separate themselves from the palm. And my head has to just slide, and my face is sliding on the blanket, and I make it bigger so that it can roll my whole body. And I'm looking down then, looking down towards my right knee. And then I stand both hands, and I start to explore how does pushing my hand into the floor allow me to move the whole of the rest of my body. And I'm just playing with where it goes. All the time, my elbows are like these little grasshopper wings, or like a lizard. Pushing my weight through my hands. Rolling, opening up the chest and shifting my weight around however I want. It's this rolling and opening of the chest that connects my elbows to the back of my body, the back of the waistline. So I've got this powerful connection through the hands, through the upper arms, through the shoulder blades, down to the back of my waistline. And then that starts to implicate the pelvis in the action. I'm just taking a rest. And I want to come into kneeling, sit my bottom over my heels. I've got my big toes together and my knees still more or less hip width apart. And then I'm just resting my head on the ground and taking my arms forwards. They could be in a kind of prayer, but I'm not holding them, I'm just letting my arms flop onto the ground. Very gently, very loosely feeling my elbows. My elbows on the ground. Slightly opens up my shoulders. I start to lift my bottom off my heels and slide my arms forwards. And that opens up my shoulders more, opens up my armpits more. And I slide back my bottom towards my heels, and I just do that a few times. I've tucked my toes underneath, but that's because I've got painful knees. Well, not painful, but just very bony, dodgy knees. So it's better for me to tuck my toes under here, but it could be done whatever way. I could do it both ways, try it both ways. Sliding my arms forwards and back on the ground. And I just want to come into an arch a little bit and round my back a little bit. All the time my arms are just reaching forwards. I'm pulling my pelvis forwards and backwards, arching my back as my arms go forwards, and then dropping my tailbone and rounding my back as my arms come back. And I do it a few times, and as I go and as I open up my shoulders more and more, softly, softly, I actually feel I can start to turn my palms towards the ceiling. My arms come up and off the floor, and then forwards and down. I'm enjoying the rounding of the back on the way up, the dropping of the crown of the head on the way back down. I keep pulling my chin in as I stretch my hands forward so that I get this, I pass through this point where my arms are stretching forwards, but I'm looking back towards my pubic bone, towards my feet. So I'm maximising the rounding of the back and the opening up of the armpits on the way forwards. And I slip past that point to stick my bottom out, stick my chest out and come further forwards. And I come back and round again. I'm going to come all the way up with my toes tucked under like this, coming up to my knees and opening up. And I'm just going to keep going. So I'm kneeling back, I'm stretching out my toes, sliding my back of the hands down my knees, dropping the crown of the head, rolling down like I did in standing at the beginning of the lesson, but a little swifter, rounding. I am slightly drawing the belly in. My elbows come down to the ground. I keep tucking my chin and looking towards my belly,
sliding my fingertips forwards as much as possible with my back of the hands on the ground, coming through that place where my belly draws in, my pelvis lifts up. I'm still trying to look towards my belly, and that really opens up my armpits. I have a little wriggle here, side to side, kind of like a cat. Just getting nice and juicy through the spine, through the side of the ribs, shifting my weight side to side, rounding my back, sticking my bottom out, whatever feels good. Looking up under one armpit, looking up under the other armpit, and then again sliding all the way forwards, arching the back, opening the chest, pushing the chest down to the ground gently, sticking the bottom out as wide as I can through the sitting bones. And I'm going to just come around, bring my hands underneath my shoulders and push up in this arch. Intentionally arching and pushing up. I'm intentionally arching. This is okay because I feel I'm supported through my belly. Even though I'm in an arch, I'm really practicing sticking the bottom out. I'm going to start getting my ribs in so I'm not arching so much, but I'm still trying to stick the bottom out. So I'm trying to open up my sitting bones and stick the bottom out, and that hinges me in the hips easier. So I'm trying to keep my upper back rounded and supported whilst I stick the bottom out. And then do some press ups. Little tricep press ups. Trying to hinge in the hips. Open up my anus. I said the word anus on YouTube. Little tricep press ups. Doing quite a lot of these, to my surprise. They're quite hard. I'm squeezing my elbows in towards my side. And then I just lower myself all the way down. My little grasshopper wings, my elbows go back, 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 back. I come up into a nice little hip opening back bend. I squidge around my hips, roll around my pelvis, open up my collarbones. Nice and open through the front of the body. I just want to turn my hands back the other way so my fingers are facing backwards, and I can roll my shoulders even further back. I have to be careful that I don't drop completely into the spine. I don't want to hurt my back. I'm just drawing the front of the ribs gently in because I know I over arch in one particular part of my back. So I have to draw my low ribs in. Here again I can draw my elbows back, push my pubic bone down and forwards, and then lay myself all the way down again and rest. Turn my head the other way, rest the other way. Take my heels side to side. Actually bend my knees. Take my feet side to side. Softly rolling my thighs on the ground, rolling my pelvis on the ground. Turn my head the other way and keep going softly, very softly. Rolling my thighs, rolling my pelvis. And then I bring my hands back to the little ground. Arms forwards, toes tucked under for me. Rolling up and down. Doing maybe a little variation, one side at a time, means I can roll the arms on the floor in different ways. And then up onto all fours, toes tucked under, cat-like. Taking my head side to side, rounding and arching my back, getting a nice wriggle on through the spine, tucking my toes under if they're not there already. I'm just rocking backwards and forwards on my toes, really drawing my belly in. I'm going to have a last little lie on my back just to see how I'm feeling. What's my alignment like now? Rolling my head side to side. Releasing the jaw, soft in the eyes.
I stand my feet. A relief. Feel a sense of relief. And then I just roll all the way to standing. And I'm going to roll up and down into standing, a little quicker than I did at the beginning, just a soft wave through the body, rolling up, looking up, bending the knees, rolling down. Playing with how I bend and lengthen my knees. Feeling as I roll up and down through the spine, how that affects my hips, the opening and closing of the sitting bones, and the way the collarbones open and close, and the way the shoulder blades slide on the back. And I just finish with the little mini ones so that I feel that there's this wave coming through the floor, from my feet, up through my feet. Little wave coming forwards and backwards, and keeps going but becomes so small that it's invisible. I close my eyes, I see how I feel. Comparing my experience of standing now to 1 hour ago. And I take a walk. I'm going to end the stream here and then take my walk because I'm, as is often the case, slightly late. Thanks for joining. Do share on social media, put it on to other people you think might enjoy it. It's a little bit different every day. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's softer. It's always functional movement stuff, integrating the whole body, the whole self. It's always a kind of really feel-good, restorative session where you learn about yourself, or we learn about ourselves. And yeah, you can take it away